All right, that moves us to our second question, which this time is going to be Elisa. There has been much debate concerning access to affordable health care in the United States. The question is, do you, one, hold the position that health care is a fundamental human right? And two, what will you do as a United States Senator to ensure affordable health care access for all U.S. citizens?
Right, I'm a visual learner, so I'm writing down those keywords from the question, so they'll stick in my brain and we can carry forward. So I am someone who thinks that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are our fundamental rights. We have self-evident truths, and I don't think that healthcare per se is a fundamental right. That being said, we do need to work smarter and not harder, and to that end, repeal and replacing the Affordable Health Care Act, which of course was inaptly named, such a misnomer and very misleading to the American public for what they were expecting and what they got in return. We do need to make changes there, and as I mentioned moments ago, to that, along those lines, the entitlement programs with Medicaid, Medicare need to have comprehensive reform. And then the pre-existing coverage, we need to make sure that people have those protections in place, those safeguards in place, in order to better make decisions with their health plans. Again, free market competition works. We know this, we see this. Public-private partnerships benefit citizens in terms of healthcare decisions, transparency of cost. We've seen with COVID a lot of the telemedicine and the advancements there, but people should be able to not only shop around for their doctor, but the best insurance plan, and crossing state lines with a true free enterprise system will allow citizens to be smarter consumers and better decision makers in regards to their own personal health care. I absolutely oppose government or universal health care. I think that's a terrible way to go. We've seen that it becomes a slippery slope and it falls apart because anytime the federal government puts its finger in the pie, people tend to lose their appetite. So we don't want any more of that, and but there needs to be comprehensive reform. But those are my general remarks, and I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Daniel, the question is now to you. If anybody needs me to repeat a question, please let me know.
Yeah, Mark, will you repeat that? I'm sorry, please.
Okay. There has been much debate concerning access to affordable health care in the United States. Do you, one, hold the position that health care is a fundamental human right? And two, what will you do as a United States Senator to ensure affordable health care access for all U.S. citizens?
Okay, don't forget to restart the timer there, Mark, too.
Yep.
So look, healthcare is a really interesting one because it actually has properties of both a good, that is something that you can buy and sell and trade and everything else, and a right in some cases. So for example, we as a society have decided that if you show up in an emergency room, the emergency room has to care for you regardless of your ability to pay. So of course we're a society that is big enough and strong enough to have emergency care for people who are bleeding out, as I once was, although in a much different context as a soldier on the battlefield. But look, ultimately healthcare, the best way to provide healthcare to the maximum number of people is to go back to what we already know, which is that the free market is the best way to ensure that we get high quality, high access, and low waiting times, low costs. So the way to do that, what Obamacare did, the problem with it was it shifted from insurance companies being in charge to government being in charge, and that's the wrong approach. The right approach is to shift from insurance companies being in the driver's seat to individuals being in the driver's seat in conjunction with their doctors. What that means, what does that mean? It means health savings accounts. It means price transparency, as the Trump administration has already done with obviously with the Congress, they've done that, price transparency. It means making sure that we take care of people with pre-existing conditions so their insurance companies don't drop them. And that can be done using free market principles as well. And then there's another thing that we need to do, which is reform how drug companies get drugs approved so that we get drugs to market fast and as cheaply as possible so that consumers can, so those savings can be passed on to consumers. That's a way to cut healthcare on prescription drugs by about a third, is what the studies show. So there's a lot of room for improvement in our healthcare system, but all of us share the goal, whether you're a free market person or whether, like me, or whether you're a socialist. Ultimately, you share the goal of having a society in which everybody can get access to healthcare. It's just that our policies are better on this.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Um,
Tom,
so-
we're at you now.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm going to make it easy for everybody. I agree with everything that both of these guys both just said. Okay, this is not rocket science, except that none of us are actually doctors. None of us actually are willing to recognize that this is probably one of the singularly most complicated issues that America faces, because healthcare is it's a good. We have to have the free markets because that's going to drive prices. We have to have transparency because that's going to drive competition. Those things are all sort of like basic economics 101 that Democrats and socialists interfere with when they try to give it away to everybody. You know, the reason it's not a decision we made as a society for everybody to have access to emergency health care. That's a moral obligation for healthcare providers to provide care to people who are in need of care. That's where part of this problem stems. It's not a problem, but it's part of the rationale behind when you show up at the emergency room, you can get care. So what I promise I will do is I will go to work to give us the most health care at the lowest price possible across state borders. But I'm not an expert. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up everybody's butt trying to tell them that I am an expert in healthcare or I have the greatest ideas. This is an extremely complex issue, something that is going to take a lot of work. And all of those things that they said are the standard Republican talking points. We all believe those things. I'm just not going to try and present myself as somebody who's an expert on it to convince you to vote for me. What I will do is I will work to give you the cheapest cost, most access to healthcare in a free market system, including pre-existing conditions, which I think have to be protected.
Okay, thanks, Tom.